Yeah, I think it's just our born instinct to sort of have a attraction for the opposite sex. And sometimes I feel like some people are born, they haven't got so much hormones in them.
Yeah.
Or I feel like I had a lot when I was a young boy even, you know.
Like most young boys do when you're at a certain age.
Well, I think
It's just something natural in you that you just want to reproduce.
I think some women...
Just, there's just something, you want to... it's just something natural, especially with men, there's just something naturally built within us if you want to reproduce, we want to find, someone to,
I think some girls, they start maturing early, don't they?
Mm.
Like, I think my daughter was kind of like young, very young, when she started having a period and all that. And it's like my ex, I told you, she got pregnant at the age of 11. But men, they start, on average, about 15. So they're a little bit, women, they kind of sort of get these sexual feelings earlier than men.
Yeah.
At a young age.
Yeah. And just to clarify what he just said as well, I don't want people to misconstrue what he just said. His ex, he wasn't with her when she was 11.
No, I wasn't, no.
Her stepfather, unfortunately, was the one who impregnated her when she was 11.
Yeah.
And he met her later on in life when she was an adult.
When she was about 18, yeah.
And obviously he had a relationship with her.
Yeah.
And then obviously found out about the things that transpired in her past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was going to please to get her a conversation about that, if you sort of mean, and she got the conversation.
She got compensation, yeah.
And he also went to prison for it in the end. Okay, he got 15 years for what he did.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's quite a lot of time. Okay.
That's good, yeah.
So yeah, but it's still not enough, if you ask me, because it really damaged her mentally. Honestly, it's a long story. It goes on, right? She's had a number of problems. Okay, she's had all her children taken away from her.
Wow.
Now, she's had, I didn't expect to be talking about it, but I think she's had about 5 children, and they've all been taken away from her, and they've all been separated in different foster homes now.
Yeah, yeah.
But it don't matter, it's that's what I mean. Some people get screwed up at an early age because they haven't got the right parents.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
It's very important.
And they end up spending the rest of their life traumatised.
Yeah, mixed up, because they didn't have the love or the right love when they were younger.
That's it. And then sometimes they find it very hard then in the future to be in a relationship.
Well, being a human being even.
Because
it's really difficult being a human being.
Oh yeah, of course. Continuing after that, people usually get depressed and suicidal.
Well, people want to hide away for the rest of their life. Some people, whatever.
And sometimes people get PTSD too. People get PTSD, they might try to have a normal life and whatever else and try to have a normal, healthy adult relationship, if you see what I mean. But then they, when it comes to that intimate time with their partner, they might experience PTSD and shit, and they find it hard sometimes to have like a normal relationship, if you see what I mean, because obviously where they've endured so much trauma in the past, sometimes...
Yeah, well, it affected, honestly, meeting that girl, I was only with her 3 years, but it really affected my life, my mum's life, because, I'll tell you what happened, alright, so she wanted me out of the house, so I went, I didn't like it, alright, the house was in her name. The first house was in my name, but then we got a flat and put her name or whatever. I trusted her, whatever. Right? Yeah. But anyway, I was with her 3 years, and then she suddenly met somebody else in the nightclub, right? And his name was Mark, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was out.
Yeah.
And she's out the door. I didn't want the police coming. For goodness sake.
Of course, they want to get out. Yeah.
This is when my son was a year and a half. I was sort of like babysitting, or when she went out nightclubbing every week. But she finally met this guy called Mark and wanted me out.
Yes.
And I was out.
Yeah.
And I could do nothing about it really. What can you do when a woman doesn't love you anymore and she's in love with someone else? You cannot do nothing.
And that was not long after she got her compensation too.
Well, she got the compensation, then that's when she wanted me out.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? She had a bit of money behind her. So I gave her a bit of power. And that's why she went nightclubbing. Right? She said, can I go nightclubbing with my friend? And I said, yeah, okay, why not? But I didn't know she got the money.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
You know, anyway, she was just enjoying herself at nightclub, and then suddenly I was out. She met somebody else.
That was that.
Well, then I was devastated. I mean, I felt like killing myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I love my son so much. I loved being with him and playing, taking him wherever,
Yeah.
But I was out. I couldn't be with him or near him anymore. And it was hard for me, and I didn't really see him for a month. And anyway, I didn't know what was going on, and I thought, instead of drinking, or getting depressed, I'm going to go weight training. So I started doing weight training, spending quite a lot of money on it, doing swimming, doing jacuzzi and everything, looking after myself, really healthy.
Yeah.
100 days later, or a couple of months later, I met the woman I married.
Yeah, yeah.
I fell in love with,
Yeah.
And I was seeing Kyle every sort of weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I met my wife to be, and I fell in love with her, we were both in love with each other. My ex was coming around with Kyle, chucking bricks through my window, saying, you take him for the week. And I said, no, because, I'm working, whatever.
Yeah, I'm busy, I'm working,
Well, you know. But anyway, after 2 years, she had 3 other children with that guy.
The same guy, yeah? Yeah.
In 2 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so I was with Mickey, and seeing Kyle every weekend. He was getting older. We were having him every weekend. But when we didn't have her one, like she'd come around breaking my windows one time, whatever.
Shit, yeah.
They got quite nasty.
Yeah.
But after 2 years, they had 4 children. My son being the oldest. And they only had a 1-bedroom house.
Yeah, yeah.
Flat, whatever. And he ended up breaking his legs.
Oh dear.
And the social workers please come in and separated him. My mum possibly
Got him. Yeah.
When he was 4 years of age. So and it's not been easy for my mum really, because my mum didn't really like Carol, my ex, whatever, for what she did for me. But then when she did have not custody, but what do you call it?
Yeah, custody.
No, it's not custody. Yeah, well, I suppose it is.
Yeah.
Foster parents it is.
Yeah.
Carol had to sort of come round every 6 weeks or so, I think it was, and stay there all afternoon.
Okay.
And go out and stay in the garden. My mum didn't want it.
I see.
What I mean? She felt a bit uncomfortable, It's awkward, isn't it, all this stuff, and it kind of like destroyed my mum's life a little bit in a funny way. I can't explain it.
Because her kids were grown up and left home, and then she obviously...
She wanted to retire, right, and she just wanted to spend the rest of her life for, in retirement. No more children around. The next minute, I leave home, have a baby. When he's 1.5 years old, well, when he's 4, he's back with my mum. My mum's sort of being a mother again.
Yeah, adopted him and kind of raised him as her own.
And she's still, even today she's still a mother, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, having a child is a big commitment.
Yeah.
It's like having another you that you've got to look after and keep your eyes on every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Even when they're old, really.
Yeah, you're still concerned for them. You still worry for them.
If you love them.
Of course. Well, you've got to love your children, haven't you?
Well, not everyone does.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, thankfully, I think me and you are both the type of parents that we both love our children. We adore and cherish and love our children, immensely.
I think
my kids are like my life.
Yeah, me too. That's how I feel about my children.
There's nothing I wouldn't do for my children. I've always been there from day one, from the time their mum was pregnant right up to she gave birth, and I've been there ever since.
That's how I feel about my children. It's been really difficult for me to see my children even, and that's not right. Like I mentioned it in previous episodes. I've actually got arrested for saying hi to my daughter from across the road. Then I got put on probation. I was locked up in a high security prison. And I think, hang on, is it a crime to say hi to your daughter? No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, that's it's not against the law. Surely, but I got, like I said, I got an injunction the week before, but I didn't read it. and only because I broke a tiny little window trying to deliver a birthday card that had a lot of money in it. You know, and it's just like a nightmare. Like, they make you an criminal for loving your own children.
Yeah.
That's what gets me. But anyway, like I say, a child is really, really hard work. And sometimes I feel like, well, I haven't seen my children for quite a while, for a number of years. But it kind of heals me in a funny way. Like, I think like children can make your hair grow grey in a kind of way, and they're stressful. And I feel like if they weren't taking, because what happened, like I had no, you know, my ex-wife took the children away, took my rights away from me, and I didn't see him again. So I think, well, that's your fault. If you want to do that, I've not done anything wrong to my children ever. You know, I loved them and they had good fun with me. I told them stories and everything. If you want to do that, do it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, go and take them. Take them if you want to do that. Take them away from, you know, Mr. Magic, because I was Mr. Magic to them.
Yeah.
Because you are very magical to your own children.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But not all people though. Like, some mothers have children, they hate their children. They get postnatal depression.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Some mothers are really the worst nightmares in the world, aren't they? And they're the worst mothers in the world they can be, depending on who they are, depending on their history. It's like I told you, you know, I don't really like sharing too much about all that abuse that I, with my exes and all this sort of stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And that's what's reality out there. There's a lot of abuse out there, believe it or not. There's a lot of children that get abused that don't even say, or don't even mention it, you know, because they don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And things like that, that, you know, secretly hiding away.
Or they're afraid they're going to be judged as well.
Well, they don't understand it.
And not only that, but back in the day, you used to get a lot of people that would come forward and try to tell their family that, you know, someone else in the family or someone that they know or someone has done something to them, and a lot of times they used to sweep it under the carpet kind of thing, like, you know, they used to kind of keep it hush-hush, and, you know, unfortunately, you know, they used to, and sometimes people, like you said too, sometimes people will come forward and their parents would be like, no, like, absolutely not, I don't believe you, you know. They don't believe, like, you know, you also get parents that used to be in denial too and wouldn't believe their children, you know. But yeah, it's
like the Vatican and all that, isn't it? There's sickness in it all.
Oh yeah, of course, because like even the Vatican, like the most, I think we talked about it very briefly before, like their biggest expenditure financially every single year is them having to pay off all these people that have accused the cardinals and different bishops and all these different people of child sex abuse and all these different things, if you see what I mean, like, you know, different sexual allegations, you know. So yeah, like you're saying earlier, we live in a sick world, you know.
It is
and in all honesty, I think if they were to get rid of porn, it probably wouldn't be a bad thing. It probably wouldn't be a bad thing, to be very honest with you, you know. Or if they were to make it a lot more harder to access, you know, for people who are underage, if you see what I mean. Because as we all know, anyone that's ever watched porn or been on a porn website, it's very easy to get, you know, there's not much restrictions, you know, if you see what I mean, in terms of like being able to access the content that's on there. So I think, in all honesty, if they should really make it a lot harder, there should be some kind of way of verifying their age, if you see what I mean, in order to be, you know, because obviously if someone is an adult and they choose to indulge in something, then that's up to them. It's just like with drinking or smoking or anything else, if you see what I mean. Once you're an adult, you're free. You know, it's up to you to make your choices for your life. If you see what I mean, you're grown. You're deemed to be a grown person of society and old enough to make your choices. If you see what I mean. So yeah, you know, I don't think it's, you know, if you're going to be of age and you're going to consume those things, then fine. But I think they should make it a lot harder for the younger, you know, for young people to access. And one good thing I must say is that me and my wife have put restrictions on our computer, if you see what I mean. So there's nothing, anytime the children are searching for anything, when they're on their profiles, nothing ever sexual will ever pop up. There's no chance of it happening because there's an age restriction, if you see what I mean. No content over a certain age, if you see what I mean, is available to them, if you get what I'm saying, you know. Even if there was a search for it.
Let's say there's a 5-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl, 7-year-old girl, say, and they're walking past a field, field of cows, but all of a sudden they're all both just chatting and playing and skipping, going along, but then all of a sudden they saw just two people having sex in the field there. Okay?
Yeah.
What would a child think of that, right? Would they like it, or would they stare at it and go like that?
Well,
you know
they probably wouldn't understand. They probably wouldn't understand, but at the same time, that could also be traumatic for a child too. Like, like children are not supposed to be exposed to any kind of this. Like, it's like even when you're parents, obviously, if you're a parent, it's like. That if you're like you say you're married, you have kids, of course as they get older and stuff, and obviously you're still married to your wife, and of course you guys are still going to be intimate and stuff like that, even though you've got kids. And it's just like ensuring that obviously making sure when you and your wife might engage in whatever activities, that it's the kids are asleep or out and about, and there's no possible chance that the children can be, there's any...
I do think, personally, looking at my own life, like I told you a story about my mum winning a black and white TV, and there I was watching sort of like naked, women stripping off and things at a very early age. I think it kind of like did something to me, unnatural, in a funny way. I can't explain it. Where if I feel like I was pure from it, if I didn't see it.
Yeah, if you weren't exposed to it.
Yeah, I would have been more natural.
But I remember being young to be honest, right, mate, and being like 10, 11 years, even younger than that, even in primary school, even though I wasn't like completely I understood, but not completely, obviously, because I was still young. But I remember like even in primary school, other kids were talking about this shit. Growing up, if you see what I mean, and you're being exposed to it, even though you might not be aware of it or what they're really talking about, or what's you're a child, if you see what I mean. But I remember people talking about this type of shit in primary school. I remember when I was like 10, 11 years old, being exposed to porn. One of my friends, his mum had like one of these old tapes, because obviously back then you had the old tape players, the VHS tape players.
I remember that.
And he had this old porn tape, it belonged to his mum, but he found it, and obviously I remember him putting it on one day, and bloody porn on it, if you see what I mean, like multiple scenes of different types of porn on it, if you see what I mean. And us two boys, we were like 10, 11 years old, we didn't watch the whole thing, but it's just like, saw it, and you thought, what the fuck's this, if you see what I mean, and then obviously, you're exposed to that shit at a young age, not intentionally, but, yeah. So you have to be careful. Like, I want my kids, like, especially like, how I look at it is like children are innocent, like, I want my kids to remain innocent up until at least a certain, up until hopefully at least to they're almost an adult, if you see what I mean, it's, obviously you want to be honest, anytime they ask you anything as they get older, you're going to be honest and real with them, but at the same time it's being like, the world is completely over-sexualized today anyway, if you see what I mean, everything is, if you see what I mean, from, all forms of entertainment, social media, movies, films, music videos, you name it. Everything's sexualized, if you see what I mean. And they're going to be exposed to it anyway, and you can only protect them so much. But I want my children, personally, I want my children to try and remain as innocent as possible until until they're an adult, and they can make their own decisions to choose to do what they want to do, if you see what I mean, Of course, things don't always take that course, because, we were all kids. We were all kids, and like even me, I was, from a young age, I was already having, I was already sexually active from the age of like 13 years old. So, with older girls, like I remember the first girl that I was ever with at 13, she was 15, so she was a bit older, you see what I mean, and she was the one that kind of instigated it, if you see what I mean, she, I was only 13 and she was 15. She's the one that instigated it, if you see what I mean. So it's like, and then, so, we know what life, because we're older now, we all know what life's like and what it's all about. You know, you can only try and hope the best for your kids and try your best to guide them. You know, and encourage them to like try and stay away from certain things. You know, not to, you know.
I know some people the same age as me that's never had sex in their life.
That's crazy, yeah.
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 Never had children, never had a girlfriend. Well, they're not friends so much, they're people I know, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's, like I say, we all have different experiences in life, don't we? I think we've all got a different sex life.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Yeah.
I look at my sex life like my childhood now. It's the past. And, you know, I'm hoping that maybe in the future it might happen again a little bit, you know, but I feel like I've experienced it so much that I don't need to do it again. You know, I've had 3 children, if you see what I mean. And at least I've had it, if you see what I mean. At least I've experienced it. At least I've loved in life, if you see what I mean. I was in love with my wife at one point and she was in love with me, but then, like I told you, and the same goes to the girl before that who I had a baby with, you know. I was, to be honest, I wasn't really in love with her. It's more sort of like...
Lust, you think?
It wasn't lust so much. It's more sort of like making myself secure for the future and giving her security as well. I feel. Because I didn't like, you know, I was a bit uncomfortable when I saw her mother's place, if you sort of mean. I wanted to get her away from that place.
I see. Yeah.
So it's kind of in my heart in a way to give her a better home.
Well, basically you felt compassionate towards her and empathetic to her situation.
Yeah, and she was quite nice. She was quite a nice girl and she was quite prepared to sort of sleep next to me in a kind of way. She kind of liked me, and that's always nice if someone likes you, if you sort of mean. But I didn't really get to know her, do you know what I mean, before I didn't really get married to her or anything. You know, we just decided to plan a baby. I thought, okay, if she's asking for a baby, why not? But she was asking for a baby because she's already had one before that she's lost. And that broke her heart. Yeah. So there she was, kept on asking me for a baby, and in the end I gave up and said, you know, let's do it then. And there, next week we had a baby, you know, but I didn't realise that she wasn't a normal girl who had a normal upbringing like most girls do in a kind of way. That's not had any sexual abuse at all. A lot of girls have these days, I know it, you know, and boys. They get abused, and like I say, they keep quiet about it, and when they get older they might start getting angry about it, yeah?
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't affect them.
I don't like mention his name ever, like with Jimmy Savile, for instance, and there's a number of names you know, that goes on the list. Horrible names that I don't really like mentioning, okay? That have really got themselves into trouble because they've had a good 5 minutes, okay, whatever, and they wanted a good time, and they thought they'd get away with it because the girls were so
young and naive and vulnerable.
That's
they took advantage of their vulnerability.
That's it. They don't think, these people, because they don't think, well, one day they will remember this, right? Because they remember something dramatic like that.
Yeah, of course.
For the rest of their lives, right? And then they grow up getting angry about it and they want to make complaints about it, obviously.
Well, naturally.
And so, same I would, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. These people are sick and disgusting and depraved. They've got something mentally wrong with them, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
They're not mentally,
you know, it's one thing that's
stable.
wrong with the world. It's one thing that's wrong with the world, and I think partly when you go back in history, when they invented drink, when they started drinking beer and all that, they started having parties, started dancing around the fire. Yeah. And sometimes, like when you had a lot of drink, sort of it, you end up sort of like getting jealous and all kinds of bad behaviour in a funny way. Not just beer, I mean, it might be other drugs as well, like opium and all kinds of things coming out at that time. Yes. That kind of like distorted the spirit in a funny way and distorted
people's way of thinking.
Well, and then you might end up having sex with someone, you know, that, you know, like abusing someone, you know, or taking advantage of someone in some way, you know. And that's, I feel like it's partly because we invented drink, and it's kind of like made us a little bit drunk. And of course, like, drinks evolved.
Yeah, yeah.
And they make, you go to the supermarket today, they've invented so many different drinks, it's unbelievable. I think they've taken some off the supermarket actually now, because they, you know, they could fill the supermarket up with so many drinks.
Yeah.
They want to say. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Some people like drinking. I used to.
Yeah.
I find like it does get you high. I do like having a drink occasionally, and I can understand people having a drink and having sex. They kind of like, don't know what they're doing, do they? And it's kind of like next minute there's a lot of children here, and they're kind of like they're really planned, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think that's happened to hundreds of children here today that go to school today. They're running planned.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say a lot of children, but that's the reality of life though. A lot of children aren't planned.
No.
It goes back to what I was talking about earlier in the beginning of the first episode. These having, you know, once you get of a certain age and you're in a mature, grown relationship with someone, you've got to be able to have these conversations.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of people don't.
No.
And things just happen, and then it's just like, it wasn't, you know, it was, you know. And I think that's just so important. That's just a part of being mature and being you know, showing growth as an individual, you know, within a couple, you know.
I mean, going back when I met my girlfriend Carol, the one that really got heavily abused. First, like I said, I was in my flat, but then we got a flat once I realised, you know, she was pregnant. We got a bigger house, a 2-bedroom flat. And we were there for a number of years, but in those years I was just playing games all the time, you see, with her. And even when my son was born, we were playing games a lot. We did take him out sometimes and things, but I was just playing games.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like ignoring your responsibilities in a funny way, you know. There's lots of things that you can, even going out drinking and playing snooker every night, you know, not being responsible for your child at home, being there for him every minute of the day, giving your heart, your whole heart, taking them wherever you go if you can. Do you know what I mean? Don't leave them, for, you know, until he's mature enough to actually be independent himself. You know.
Yeah.
But so, like I say, all these things that people, even myself, I drifted a little bit, you know, and I could have been a bit of a stronger parent or father even to my son if I didn't play so many games, but they're quite addictive, aren't they? And I feel like they're so addictive. I was playing him so much that, not that I was ignoring my son completely, you know, because we fed him and all that kind of stuff, but I felt like I could have given him a bit more reading time.
Yeah, you could have spent more actual time with them.
Yeah, you know, I did love him. I'm not saying I neglected him like some people do, you know, and not completely like playing my games, and when he was crying I didn't sort of like, I'm playing my game, you know, and completely ignore him. When he got, you know, as soon as he cried I went to him, you know what I mean, so Carol or whatever, you know. But I'm just saying these games sort of like, they do take you away from the real thing, reality.
Yeah.
What you should love. And I'm not just talking about games. There's lots of different.
Lots of distractions. Yeah.
That take the focus. Even like I was saying, previous episodes about people loving their cars. When you love your cars and love whatever, that means you're taking your time off the things you should be loving, maybe.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. I'm trying to explain myself, yeah.